The last one on here is called the half kneeling hip flexor stretch. Just like the title says, it's stretching the hip flexors. Like I said, the main hip flexor that we have is our psoas, and that actually it starts here, but it goes all the way back and it actually attaches to the front of the spine. So if you have tight hip flexors, it's going to be constantly putting an anterior tension on that lumbar spine. So it's really important to try to stretch those hip flexors as much as we can. Now the way we would do this one is you're going to get in a kneeling position. Again, if you have bad knees, this might be where the foam would come in or the pillow, something to rest on there. And you want to have a rather large stride here. You're going to lean forward, and as soon as I do this, as long as you keep your body in an upright position, I can already feel a stretch on the front of my hip right here. Okay? Now to get a little bit more of a stretch, I can lean lean to the side as well. And now I feel a stretch all throughout my fascia on the side, my lats, and my hip flexor right now. I'll demonstrate this other side.
Just make sure you maintain your balance.
Yeah, that's important. There's nothing wrong with having a chair right there next to you to hang on to when you do this. So leaning forward, and now I'm going to reach across to the other side. And again, this gets this whole anterior fascia. You might feel this in your quad and your abdominals or in your hip flexor, ideally, is what we're going for here. Okay, and that's the last one. So really with this program, we've stretched out the front of the hips and the abdominals. We've stretched out several areas along the outside and the obliques and the lats. We've stretched out the lumbar spine. We've stretched out the paraspinals and the QL. We've got down into the glutes and then the hamstring as well. The one muscle group I did kind of leave out, and I was going over this with my wife last night. She was quick to point out that I left this muscle group out. But it's your adductor muscles right here. Okay? So I don't have this on here, but I do want to just do two demonstrations quickly of how you can maybe stretch out these adductor muscles on the inside as well. So the first one's very easy. It's just in a standing position. You can have something to hang on to, sorry. And you can just lean to the side. And as I lean to the right, I'm going to be stretching my left adductors. Or I can lean to the left and stretch the right side. Another way that's a little bit more advanced, a little better stretch, is lying on your back, grabbing your feet and just bringing your feet into your chest. And this is nice because it brings a little bit of a lumbar flexion position in, but then it also gets a really nice stretch in your adductors, your groin muscles as well.
Is it better to do it on your back? Because I've always, as an athlete, would do it sitting down, butterfly style, and then leaning in.
Yeah, it's easier on your back to do it laying on your back, actually. There's nothing wrong with doing the sitting position.
Okay.
And that kind of leads me to the final thing I wanted to say. There's 12, 15 stretches on here. There's 400 stretches out there for your low back. This is just a little sample of some things that you can start. Either it's a good start for you or maybe something you can add in to stretches you're already doing. But it's always good to have variety in your stretches. So if you do this program for a couple months, it might be good to try to get another program for your low back and just kind of mix it up and keep things fresh with that. It's always good to have variety in there. There's 2 hamstring stretches on there. There's 100 ways to stretch your hamstrings. Those other ways aren't bad. These are just what I happen to pick out for this program. So don't feel like this is the end-all, be-all of stretching programs. This is just a way to get started and some things I think would be beneficial to what Dr. Jennifer and Dr. Andy are doing with y'all. Okay. Do you guys have any questions for me?
So, but you would say all these stretches you should do at one time?
That's a good question. If you can. Everybody's schedule and time is different. If you went through and did all of these together and actually did 3 or 4 sets of 10 to 15 seconds, it shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes.
Okay.
Probably closer to 20, really. So that's fairly reasonable to do in one sitting. Stretching is one, if you go to and you're doing strength training, I don't recommend doing strength training every day of the week. Stretching is one of those things you really can do every day of the week. Now, I know I don't stretch every day of the week. So if you can do this 3 or 4 times a week, if you were having back problems and you were able to do this 3 or 4 times a week, all at once, I think that'd be beneficial. If you had to divide it up and do half in the morning, half in the evening, there's nothing wrong with that. In general, though, after you do the warm-up and you kind of get settled in and start doing your stretches, it's probably easier just to get
Is
through
it
them.
better in the morning or evening to do those stretches?
The only reason I would say in the evening is because your body's had a lot of time to warm up and get loose, and then it might be beneficial, especially, say you work a desk job. and you're sitting in the desk all day, even though you're moving around, your muscles probably tighten up throughout the day, so it might be nice to do that in the evening. So I would lean towards the evening, but some people find it beneficial to wake up, do a little warm-up, get their stretches in, and then they feel like they're ready for the day. So it's more of a personal preference. Personally, I would lean towards the evening for myself, but there's no right or wrong to that, as long as you feel like you're warmed up.
What kind of soreness are you going to feel?
Well, the first time you do this program, you'll probably be a little bit sore. Especially if I did this, I would feel a little soreness in my hips. You may feel it in your back or maybe in your abdomen. Everybody might feel a little differently, but a little soreness would be expected. Every time you do this, that should get less. And after you do this 3 or 4 times, I wouldn't expect to continue to have soreness just from doing these stretches.
Drink lots of water after the stretches.
Yeah,
Use
great
ice
tip.
if you're hurting afterward.
Yeah, great tip.
I hope this isn't a rude segue, but those of us that do sit around a lot, I mean, what can we do to help reduce posturally? Like, I know reclining, that puts more pressure on your back, so you shouldn't use a recliner much.
Yeah, we were talking about this actually before the session. One thing to do, like especially if do you mean at a desk? Like
Well, I'm all over the place.
Okay, well, I'll use the desk as an example, is you want to make sure that you promote a good posture. So if you can scoot your chair closer to the desk, because if you're too far back, you're going to be leaning forward. If you're too far forward, you may even lean back a little bit. So get a nice distance at your desk, but usually that's going to be closer rather than further. And then I actually saw they've got these pillows over here. I was just talking about these before. You mind if I grab one of these and hold that up? You know, these are designed for the car, but there's no reason you couldn't put this in a chair in your office, and then that promotes that nice lumbar position as well. And then if you get out of that lumbar position, this pillow is going to tip over. You're not going to feel it. It'll be a little reminder to say, hey, I need to sit up a little better. And I would imagine you could use this in a recliner or a kitchen table or anything like that, any position. You could probably use something like that.
So we shouldn't be like this too much. We shouldn't be
Absolutely
like
not. No. You want to have that nice, kind of when we did that cat-cow exercise and I demonstrated it sitting, you don't need to be as exaggerated as this, but that upper position is really how we should be sitting most of the time.
What about if you stand all day? Working.
Yeah, that's a little tougher.
Maybe your head down.
Yeah, a couple things I'll say about standing is you might find that you start to shift weight to one leg more so than the other, and that kind of promotes an asymmetrical position. We don't want that. We want to have good symmetry between both our lower extremities as we're standing. So focus on that. The other thing I would do is definitely focus on good footwear. Our back is going to take a brunt of the stress and strain of our body as we're standing, but if we have a good support system underneath, and I don't mean over cushion, there is no such thing as too much cushion, but just having a nice, good supportive pair of shoes on will help out with that a lot.
Okay, so would you say those stretches in between? Because I do
Yeah.
have my head down most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do the stretches at your lunchtime or something like that. I'm treating a FedEx driver right now, and I told him after every 15 stops. FedEx drivers, they make like 175 stops a day. I had no idea. I thought it was like 50. But anyway, so I told him after every 15 stops, he had to get out or get in the back of his truck and do his stretches. And that actually really did help him a lot.
Okay.
So, no harm in doing it in the middle of the day either. Any other questions? Those are great questions.
I've got a couple things I wanted to talk about that I thought of that are similar or related things that we see a lot in our office.
Sure.
And then you might think of some more questions while I'm talking. But like you were just saying about doing it every 15 stops, one of the things we'll tell people, especially for neck stretches, which we didn't get into tonight, but just set a little timer on your phone for like 30 minutes or an hour. Get a little kitchen timer, and every time that thing goes off, do one of these stretches. You may not have time to do them all, but do one of them. And throughout the day, then you're going to knock them all out at least. But that's a good way to kind of remind yourself. Talking about footwear, high heels are really bad for the low back. So ladies, men too, high heels that can throw things out of alignment. Wallets, sitting on your wallet, your gun, your tobacco, that can throw things out of alignment. You want to keep things straight when you're in a seated position. Try not to cross above the knee with your legs. That's going to put a twist in your low back when you do that. Same thing when you're sleeping at night. If you're sleeping on your side, you have a tendency to drape that top leg over the bottom leg. So we recommend putting a pillow between your knees to keep your legs parallel to one another so that you don't get that twist in there. Don't sleep on your stomach. That's going to put a kink in your low back. Plus, you have to turn your head one way or the other to breathe, so that's going to cause problems with the neck. And if you're sleeping on your back, it's okay to put a pillow underneath your knees, just a small one. That takes some of the pressure off of the hamstrings and off of your sciatic nerve and low back as well.
Is it healthy to lay on the back like that or not?
To sleep on your back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's helpful.
Yeah, either your back or your side is the best way to sleep. Yeah. Good. Yep, this is all I had. How many of you in here like to watch TV or watch TV every once in a while?
Oh, no.
Everybody.
Do these stretches while you're watching TV. And most shows are a minimum of 30 minutes. You can get them all done in 30 minutes. But you guys have any other questions?
Let's say a big thank you to Dr. Jeff